US President Donald Trump and Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe held a long phone call over the weekend, agreeing to cooperate on issues related to North Korea and Iran. That's according to Kyodo News, which reported Saturday that the two leaders spoke for roughly 75 minutes. The conversation came after a two-day visit to Japan by Iranian leader Hassan Rouhani. Japan has close ties and diplomatic ties with Iran and has acted as a mediator between Washington and Tehran. Japan is also highly interested in North Korea issues. Shinzo Abe told reporters on Saturday that he expressed to President Trump his support for further efforts for a denuclearization deal between the US and North Korea. There are just about 10 days left until North Korea's unilateral year-end deadline is up for the US to restart nuclear talks with a new approach that will satisfy the regime. Leader Kim Jong-un apparently raised the issue in a meeting of military officials and referred to important military steps to be taken to bolster the regime's security. And this all comes amid speculation that the North may soon launch another missile provocation.
North Korean leader Kim Jong-un recently held an expanded meeting of the Central Military Commission of the North ruling Workers' Party, discussing ways to enhance the regime's military capabilities. Pyongyang's state-run Korean Central News Agency reported Sunday that in this meeting held on an unspecified date, Kim gave an analysis and briefing on what he called the complicated internal and external situation.
Meanwhile, US officials are reportedly preparing for that possible missile test by North Korea. The New York Times reported Saturday that the Trump administration anticipates that the regime will test in the coming days an ICBM capable of reaching the US mainland. Sources told the Times that if the North does resume its missile tests, then Washington will push for tougher sanctions on it at the United Nations Security Council. Nuclear experts think that the regime has substantially expanded its arsenal despite the 2 rounds of talks between Donald Trump and Kim Jong-un, and that it has enough fissile material to produce 38 nuclear warheads.
Following their bilateral meeting, the French and Ivorian presidents made some announcements, and there was the signing of an agreement hailed as historic by both men. It's the end of the CFA franc. It is to be renamed the eco-currency in a move that means that France is losing much of its power, of its role in the functioning of this monetary system and currency. For Emmanuel Macron, it's the natural course of history, and he wanted also, he said, to quell criticism, with some in Africa saying that the CFA franc was just another form of neo-colonialism. The two leaders, Alassane Ouattara and Emmanuel Macron, also discussed security issues, talking about efforts, the need to intensify efforts in fighting terrorists, Islamist militants in the Sahel region.
The 56th Ordinary Summit of ECOWAS was anything but ordinary. These are particularly difficult times for the region as attacks by armed groups have escalated in recent months. The rising violence in the Sahel and other parts of West Africa dominated the speeches.
The leaders in their last meeting in September agreed to set up a $1 billion fund to pay for armies to fight the armed groups. $100 million of that is distributed. But with many countries in the region having to fight their individual battles alone, it is feared that more than $1 billion will be needed to achieve peace.
It's a show that at first stunned and then galvanized the country. A live political debate, unscripted and unedited, a first in Uzbekistan. There have been 29 others over the past 3 months where a wide range of topics were discussed, often putting the candidates on the spot, to the point that this party leader admitted Uzbek politicians lack courage.
We didn't anticipate this level of success. It was difficult at first because politicians weren't ready for this. But then they prepared and were able to answer questions they didn't expect. People have become more interested in the parties and their programmes.
In the United States, 6 people have been killed and 13 others injured in a fire at an apartment complex in downtown Las Vegas. Authorities say several residents were hanging out of windows when firefighters arrived, and several people were injured after jumping from the building. The fire department says 5 of those hurt during the fire are in critical condition.
A sweeping new economic law has been approved by Argentina's Congress. Officials declared a public emergency to prioritize the worsening debt crisis gripping the nation's economy.
It is necessary to solve the debt problem. In order to pay, you need the ability to pay. And in order to be able to pay, the economy has to recover.
Argentina's debt crisis has put the government on high alert. The new economic measures seek to combat worsening poverty and to curb back inflation, estimated to reach as high as 55% by the end of 2019. The plan will also implement higher taxes related to farm products, tourism, and exports. On Wednesday, thousands protested outside Argentina's Congress, calling for a rejection of the economic plan.
All right, now drivers of the Cuban economy, such as tourism, remittances from the diaspora and small businesses are facing a slump. And now a paucity of hard currency is also adding to Cuba's economic woes.
Cuba, where the black market booms due to shortages and high prices in the state-run economy, has been hit by monetary reforms. Cubans are struggling to acquire hard currency. It has become impossible to obtain it legally at the country's banks and exchange houses. It could get worse because of Cuba's economic situation. Now its government is planning to end the complex dual currency system, in which the two currencies circulating in its economy, peso and the convertible peso, are pegged to the dollar.
And Starliner touches down in the desert in New Mexico. An historic landing in White Sands, New Mexico concludes the first flight test of Boeing's Starliner spacecraft. The first time an American-made, human-rated capsule has landed on land.
That took place right at 6:58 a.m. Central Time, 2 days, 1 hour, and 21 minutes into Starliner's mission.